Now, details are continuing to emerge today about Robin Williams' final hours, with police copping criticism for giving graphic details about the way the comedy great died.
At approximately 10:30 a.m. on August 11, 2014, Mr. Williams' wife left the home, believing Mr. Williams to still be asleep. Mr. Williams' personal assistant became concerned at approximately 11:45 a.m. when he failed to respond to knocks on his bedroom door.
What Robin Williams' personal assistant found has sparked an outpouring of grief around the world. Today, various sources are speculating just why one of the world's greatest entertainers would end his life. There are claims he was close to broke, planning to sell his beloved home in California's Napa Valley. He'd also talked openly about his long battle with alcohol and substance abuse.
This is what you go through: heart surgery, alcoholism. I went to rehab in wine country just to keep my options open. And the idea of, these are things you got to talk about.
In a 2010 interview, Robin joked about previous thoughts of suicide.
There was only one time, even for a moment, where I thought, oh, f*** life. And I went like, then even my conscious brain went, you have a pretty good life as it is right now.
Just because you're making people laugh all the time doesn't mean that you're making yourself happy.
In fact, an Oxford University study states the majority of comedians are on one hand introverted and depressive, and on the other hand extroverted and manic. And while many comedians may disagree with that, for others it's not that hard to believe.
It's a point of fascination for audiences. There is this contradiction in having someone who's funny like Robin Williams and knowing that they're dealing with, depression.
Psychiatrist Steve Allen is an expert when it comes to mental illness. He joins us now. Steve, a lot gets made of the sad clown archetype, but do you believe there is any link between comedy and mental illness?
Well, mental illness in general, maybe a little link. Depression in particular, probably not much of a link. A lot does get made of that sad clown thing, but it's more just because the odd times a comedian mentions that they've suffered depression, everyone looks upon with shock, and so it gets reported. But the actual studies and evidence don't really show a big blip.
Steve, we've learned that Robin Williams did not leave a suicide note. What does the leaving of a note or the not leaving of a note tell us about somebody's frame of mind in that situation?
The more planning people do, the more serious and that they are about the event. A lot of people try and commit suicide in a very impulsive way. They don't think about it for more than half an hour. But the people who plan it, think about it carefully, they do things like they write notes, they say goodbye, they prepare their finances and everything like that so that their loved ones don't have to deal with it. They might give funeral instructions. It suggests in those cases that they've got a very determined frame of mind and it's less impulsive.
There is a lot of attention on suicide at the moment, and we want to get your thoughts actually on a tweet that we showed last night on the project from the Academy saying, "Jeannie, you're free." Now, we thought it was just beautiful, but there's been a lot of attention on this tweet today, and a lot of people saying it's actually glorifying suicide, that kind of message. What's your thoughts on that?
That's something we're really nervous about when we talk about these things in the media, because the goal is to try and talk about suicide and mental illness in a serious way that destigmatises it and provides information. And we can, if we're not careful, border on glorifying it. Again, that's the sort of tragic clown, the tragic genius, and giving this sense that that suicide's somehow a reflection of genius, which it's not. It's a reflection of being sad, unhappy, having problems, having no way out. And so I get why people are nervous, and I think it's good to be nervous, but it doesn't necessarily mean every tweet is glorifying suicide.
Now, Steve, we need to be able to talk about suicide if we are going to prevent others from taking their own lives. But in light of the fact that the police department have been heavily criticised for releasing very graphic details of Robin's death, what do you think is the responsible way of talking about this? That's
a really good question, because it's a tough issue. The main things are to be honest about what's happened, to do what we were just saying, don't glorify it, to do it in such a way where you provide information as well. So as well as talking about the problems, tell people the ways out. Tell them about Beyond Blue. Tell them about Lifeline. Tell them about all the websites that can provide support. Then I guess the other thing is to treat it as normal news, not treat it as something that is just so important that everyone in the world has to know, because we don't want to trigger people who are feeling sad and are feeling on the edge. We don't want to push them. We want to push them towards help. We don't want to push them towards thinking further about suicide.
Well, I understand that Beyond Blue and Lifeline have had a spike, a 50% increase in calls in the last 24 hours, which is really promising for people that obviously do need help. Steve, thanks so much for your time tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you.